Hello and welcome to Talk Time. My guest today is filmmaker and screenwriter Ms. Kalpana Lajmi, who is known for making films with a difference, someone who has strong views on issues confronting India today. Kalpana Lajmi, welcome to my show.
Thank you, Wasbir.
We are on the 100th year of the Indian cinema. Lot of phases we have seen. What are your thoughts?
My thoughts are, it is wonderful for us to say that we have covered 100 years in filmmaking. But with great sadness, I want to state, I don't think India is yet ready to be clubbed with what one calls world cinema standard. I'm not discussing the advancement of technique. I would say technicians, and I'm speaking for the Hindi film industry to which I belong, which actually represents India abroad. I'm saying that technicians are of absolute international standard. But in terms of content, in terms of screenplay structure and form, we really haven't made any movement or progress forward.
So why so? Why do you think so? Because this is a very honest and I would say correct assessment, because we are on the 100 years of Indian cinema, yet content-wise we are nowhere near world cinema.
You know why this is? I have been speaking about this since the last 20 years since I have become independent in film. You know, the quality of finance has its ramifications on the quality of cinema. What I'm trying to say is, only enlightened finance will permit enlightened cinema to be made, to reach the audience and to flourish. That is the biggest flaw in our fiscal setup.
See, I quite like the word you used, Hindi cinema, because a lot of people have big problem with the word terminology Bollywood.
I do too.
You have to?
Yeah. I feel it's a derogatory term. It's very foolish to say that we have to look upon everything with a sense of humor. It's not a sense of humor. Hollywood was created and coined to represent gigantic commercial film, and there's a distinct difference between independent filmmaking in America, the studio-funded cinema which is called Hollywood. Here, because it was Bombay, they just kind of converted it to Bollywood. And I feel like laughing because Bombay is no longer Bombay, is Mumbai. So I think it should be called Mollywood.
Mollywood.
Yeah. So at this rate it will go on. Then I heard Calcutta is called Tollywood. And then Andhra is called something else. So
that's ridiculous, isn't it?
It's ridiculous. And you see, when you're talking about world perspective, when the world looks at cinema from India, they have definitely identified mainstream Hindi cinema as quiche cinema.
Yeah. No. Who do you blame for it? You know, the producers, the directors, or the audience? Because, you know, I get a sense, as a moviegoer, I get a sense that, you know, the directors are dictated by the degenerating taste of the Indian film-going audience. And although you know that this is a film which I cannot rationalize, yet I'm making it because I want the box office to tick.
Yeah, I think it's a three-pronged kind of system that has evolved. Most of the financiers post-independent India were carpetbaggers, and it still continues. You will find some individual who wants to rub shoulders with glamour, whose dream is just to be seen, let's say, with an Aishwarya Rai, make a film just to have his name in the credits. He'll be ready to sell his land in Haryana and come with bags of cash. So that carpetbagger mentality continues. Likewise, they will meet producers of that kind of sensibility. And then what happens? We have this La La Land of villages which never existed. But on the other hand, it's very interesting to know Dr. Bhupen Hazarika, who actually was a pioneer in mass communication, turned around and made me understand, in its own way, mainstream Hindi cinema has been the true integrator and, you know, the true system which has brought India together.
Absolutely.
For example, you in Assam would still watch a mainstream film, and I in Maharashtra would watch that same mainstream film, go back home happy, and the reason being, you are not identifying your ethnic crisis, your ethnic anger or ethnic frustration.
Absolutely, yeah.
You know, and let's say it's an escapist film. You are so relieved that the background has not been spelled out.
Absolutely. Now, see, when you talk about the word mainstream, my question to you, Kalpana Lajmi, is this. Does India really have a mainstream, or is it the subnational streams from various parts of the country that actually make the mainstream? Do we call Hindi cinema the only mainstream?
No. You have cinema in Andhra Pradesh, very much on the thick strokes of Hindi mainstream film. And what
And Tamil Nadu, isn't it, to some extent?
Tamil Nadu to some extent, but Tamil Nadu is very interesting. It can make gigantic mainstream film and yet give you a wonderful sense of belonging.
Local flavor.
Local flavor. And whatever you say, the content has got some kind of root, it's rooted. Whereas Andhra Pradesh and Bombay have just gone haywire. And the danger is now when mainstream filmmakers suddenly become pompous and want to make political films, or want to make world cinema and don't understand the issues at all, and that is distorted reality.
Now, this kind of a scenario, prevailing scenario, this kind of a mentality, you gave this carpet beggar mentality, as you said, what kind of an impact does it have on a filmmaker like you, who is not into crash commercialism, at the same time who wants to make movies which the people must see?
It's very tough. It's very, very tough. And I think a lot has to be blamed with lack of institutionalized finance. When the BJP came into power, Sushma Swaraj was then information minister, and she went out of her way with people like Mahesh Bhatt and Subhash Ghai and giants of commercial cinema, and came to an understanding, and the banks were told to fund us.
Absolutely.
Hoping that you iron out the underworld finance that had filled the coffers of the Hindi film industry, and also hoping that sensible cinema can coexist. But I'll tell you what the problem is. We are such an indisciplined industry. If you ask me today, I don't even know when I'll be able to release my film.
Yeah.
Bank funding says you have to work backwards. Give us not just the revenue return picture, but tell us which date you're going to release your film.
Absolutely. So the need of the hour is some sense of discipline in the industry and going ahead.
You have to have that.
Absolutely. On that note, we shall go for a short break now, but stay on. When I come back, I shall talk to Kalpana Lajmi about whether she is a feminist or a humanist or something else. Welcome back. I am in conversation with filmmaker Kalpana Lajmi. Kalpana, actually, you see, the finance, we're talking about the dynamics of filmmaking in India. Finance today doesn't seem to be a problem, because a technician, a world-class sound engineer or sound designer like Rasul Pukuti was on this show, and he told me, that was around the time when Shah Rukh Khan had released Rawan. He told me that he wanted to use sync sound, and he wanted 2 real cars which should come crashing down on the ground from a certain height, so that he can capture the real sound. The producer said no problem. So 2 cars were just lifted up on a crane, they were hurtled down, and Rasul Pukuti was able to capture the sound. So I'm just giving you this example just to tell you that money is no problem. Then what is the problem? Why are directors succumbing to producers who wants to titillate, for example?
See, Wasbir, here I disagree with this gentleman Rasul, because I think we have to understand, we are third world, we are not having a market that is like the American English market, and it's time technicians learn to be ingenious without having to spend that kind of money. I think it's farcical to be told that you need 2 cars to actually crash down. to get that kind of sound. I mean, I'm sorry,
No,
I don't agree.
I was giving that
I'm coming
example
to
only
that.
to suggest that there is no dearth of funds.
No, there is dearth of funds.
Okay.
You will be able to garner funds from anywhere, corporate finance or single individual finance, only if you have a hero.
Actually, now, what do you think? You are now working on 2 films. You are conceptualizing, you are laying the ground for 2 films who are, as you told me before, that these are going to be social drama.
Right.
Now, my question to you, Kalpana, how different is going to be, such touchy movies like, for example, Ek Pal, Dali, Daman, Darmiyan, you name it, and they all talked about the plight of women in this country, the sufferings, tribulations, the challenges. How different are these 2 movies going to be?
See,
and what is the genre?
One film is about a situation of a very important film star, which was a true incident that took place. And I've tried to talk about the position of that woman in personal life was that of a doormat, despite having been one of the most glamorous and beautiful stars of our time. So the whole viewpoint is that the urban woman, whether in the 60s, 70s, 80s or 90s, is not emancipated, even though she might be someone on screen who creates wet dreams for all the men in the audience. The second film is not a woman-oriented film. The second film is a satire on astrology. How, especially we Hindus, are
especially
so,
in India.
Yeah, and no, Indian Hindus,
Hindus, okay.
you won't find the Christian community or the Muslim community so hung on. But I'm talking about the actual astrological patterns which are called scientific, which may be scientific, and its interpretation, and 99% are con interpretations.
So there you are.
It's a social issue.
There you are again, talking about the first movie. There you are again. You are coming up as a feminist, although you say that you're an unconscious feminist. So why can't you say that you are a feminist? Actually?
No.
What is the problem?
I tell you, no, I have no problem.
Yeah.
I have no problem. I'm proud to be a woman. I'm proud to tell you that my voice is heard, and therefore I highlight issues of the underwoman, not the underdog.
Okay.
But I, as a creative person, I don't want to be slotted as a woman filmmaker and a feminist only, because as a creative person, I have every right to have change of expression.
You see, we cannot help bring the reference of Bhupendra.
Yeah.
Now, he was a great humanist. That was his identity. That was what he has worked for all his life. Now, what are some of the trickle-down effect on you? Feminism is compared to humanism, is a slightly narrower thing. So how do you better identify better? I
think, I grew with him. And because I grew with him, truly, his worldview rubbed off onto me. And I did appreciate, and I still do. That's why I decided to work with him, and that's my second career. To see that Bhupendra's art, to see that Bhupendra's philosophy would reach out to a much wider worldview. But intellectually, I was not on par with him. And the compulsion to express to the world, I had different issues. I felt issues of the woman are truly not being heightened by anyone. And another thing I must tell you, the characteristic of women is far more exciting than the characteristic of the male. There's such a strange combination of evil and good. I mean, they really make colorful characters. So I've always been attracted to that. Number two, steadily the position of woman in mainstream cinema has been reduced to a cardboard. My argument is, even if it's an action drama film, even if it is a fantasy, why don't you give equal prominence to the female character along with the male? See, that is not being done.
Absolutely. But how do you look at women-oriented films being made by males, such as Shyam Benegal, for example?
Yeah, Gulzar, Satyajit Ray, Shyam Benegal. From commercial cinema, Anil Ganguly.
Because you worked with Shyam Benegal, that is how you sort of
started.
Yeah.
I think it's wonderful when you see a film about a woman
made by a man,
without the male gaze.
Absolutely. Getting inside that personality and trying to portray that.
Yeah, and obviously having fantastic sensitivity and empathy for the woman.
Absolutely.
And there is no doubt in terms of cinematic class.
No gender bias.
No gender bias.
No gender bias.
Yeah, no gender bias.
Absolutely.
And I don't know why we use the word bias, it's no gender prejudice.
No gender prejudice. On that note, we shall go for another short break, but stay on, we'll be right back. Welcome back. I'm still in conversation with filmmaker Kalpana Lajmi. Kalpana, you know, as a movie goer, as a viewer, it's sometimes, I find it so ridiculous watching a movie, despite a tremendous kind of special effects. Ridiculous is a long word. I'm curious. Curious. For example, I just seen Mahesh Bhatt's fantastic movie, Raz 3.
Correct.
Yet, he was on my show. I asked him this question: how do you rationalize, Mahesh Bhatt, that you have made Raz 3, where in this 21st century, you being such a modern person, you having black magic and where people drink that water and see ghosts, then he has a fantastic explanation. He said there is no need to rationalize. Certain things need not be rationalized because India is a nation which believes in this kind of mysticism, superstition. And he even referred to, he was reading a book on Indira Gandhi's biography or something written by Pupul Jayakar, where he said that Indira Gandhi in her most dark period, bad phase,
went to all
astrologers.
Yes,
what is your thoughts? How do you explain?
See, my thing is talking about Mahesh Bhatt and minds like Mahesh Bhatt. You look very carefully at his cinema. We're talking about Raz 3. What does the final statement mean?
It's a very positive message.
No. It says that human nature is far more evil and potent than black magic, jealousy, bitterness, narcissism, unriding ambition is worse than, and we should be frightened of that evil within us than actually getting upset about ghosts and spirits.
Now, you have been so closely must have discussed these issues many times with Bhupenda, in filmmaking, because he had a different sensibilities altogether. What are the thoughts, what are some of the things he said to you, about filmmaking, about the subjects you choose, about the issues you deal with?
It's very strange, Wasbir. He never had any problem with my choice of subjects. But he had one problem. He never wanted me to become a part and parcel of the rat race of Hindi film industry.
So, Bhupenda never wanted you to become a part and parcel of the
rat race of the Hindi film industry. And he obviously stood by me only because of my choice and content of cinema. I don't think Bhupen Hazarika would have given me that moral support, musical support or financial support if I was making distorted reality and escapist mainstream film.
Now, these two movies which you are making, one woman-oriented, the other a satire on astrology. Do you think, just a hypothetical question, do you think Bhupenda would have approved of these two topics? And if so, why? Or would he have approved one and disapproved the other?
No, you're very right about the first one. He would have called it an exploration of relationships.
Okay.
And probably he meant it. About astrology, he would have believed what I want to say because he was such a rationalist, though so poetic. He never believed in all this bhavishyavani and things. So, because I wrote it in a lighter vein, it gave him a lot of, he found it very charming.
Oh, so this movie was, he knew about this?
Yeah, he knew about both the projects because it's something, both of them is something I've been working on for the last 2 or 3 years. So he was aware of it. Secondly, I must say with pride, he had great respect for my mind and he had great respect for my integrity in cinema. And you must remember, he always associated with me with my uncle Gurudat and my uncle Shyam Benegal. So that that cinematic integrity which has been conducted by both my mamas, he felt had trickled into me. And I think that was his sense of pride about me, my family, and our approach to filmmaking. You know, that's, and also Bhupenda came from the background of Satyajit Ray. They are the filmmakers who explored India's reality post-independence. And he was a social thinker. He used to question.
Now, today, as you are once again gearing up to make 2 movies simultaneously, giving the final touches, laying the ground, I mean, maybe even deciding on who to cast, because casting is so important aspect, especially for a filmmaker like you, where you want the character, I mean, the actor to actually portray what is in your mind.
Feel correctly.
Are you missing Bhupenda? Because do you think you would have asked him, picked his mind on who you should?
To be very honest, Bhupenda was so reticent and such an introvert. He and I never ever discussed with each other my approach to an actor or to a... But one thing he had always told me. I asked him, I said, Bhupsu, what is this? Sanjay Leela Bhansali keeps getting money to make films, and I think I'm an equally good filmmaker. He said, you forgot one thing. You don't know how to entice an investor. Sanjay Leela Bhansali knows how to do that. First, go and entice an investor, whether it's a corporate structure or whether it's an individual. Then you'll be able to make films year after year after year. So I said, what do I do? He said, how do I know? That's why I never made films with that kind of a prolific quality, because I never knew how to raise funds.
Absolutely. I mean, quite a philosophical there. You know?
Very philosophical.
He could analyze the situation so well.
I never had frustration that what he wanted to say and do could not happen. He happily went to into another stream of thinking altogether, whether it was lyrics, whether he became an audio hero. He had, whether he was a journalist, whether he could, you know what I'm trying to say, because he was a multifaceted personality, cinema was a part. For me, cinema is everything. That is the difference. So the depth and pain and agony of what one goes through was not what he went through because he couldn't make films later on.
Absolutely. You know? Lastly, Kalpana, as someone who has been making films for 26 years now, I mean, nearly 30
You're right,
years.
25 years.
25, 26, 26 years since, if you take Ekpal into account, because let's forget about your documentary.
Correct.
You know, and someone who is associated with Assam for nearly 3 decades or more, do you ever think that, you know, feel like making a film, Assamese film or a film on Assam? I mean, on Assam, of course, you have made.
On Assam, I've done Lohit Kinare, I've done Ekpal and Daman. I no longer feel enthused because I think with Bhupenda behind me, I have explored every aspect of Assamese culture and society. I don't like repeating myself unless it is a very, very radical problem, exciting radical problem, an issue which has not been tackled. I wouldn't mind doing something against an Assam background. But on relationships, no. I can place it against any other arena of India or even abroad, depending on what kind of escape I want to have it against.
A radical woman looking for radical ideas. On that note, Kalpana Lajmi, thank you very much for being on my pleasure.
Thank you so much.